Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Shibly Mustapha. I'm a local vet, local in that I was born and bred here and studied here, alhamdulillah, and working in the community. So today I wanted to share some stories with you and challenge some thinking perhaps around the role of pets that we have and that we see in Australia. And just want to start by saying that many of us are familiar with the several ahadith that illustrate the importance of animal welfare and being compassionate to animals. For example, the prostitute that showed compassion to the thirsty dog and was granted forgiveness for a small act of kindness when she provided water using her shoe, and which ironically was narrated by Abu Huraira, whose affectionate title was the father of the kitten, as he himself was an animal lover. We also know about the esteemed camel of the Prophet ﷺ, who was given the honor of choosing the location for the building of and the new home of the Prophet ﷺ and Masjid al-Nabawi. And we also know that we have chapters in our Quran. We have multiple chapters in the Holy Quran entitled after animals and even insects. And so we know they're important for us to care for, to study, to learn from, to appreciate, and to benefit from. But what I feel we struggle with, what I've found, is that we struggle with how to reconcile the relationship that many non-Muslims have with their pets. And so I thought it'd be good to talk about the role that pets play in modern Australian society. And I realize it's a very big topic and that there's limited time, and so we're not going to be able to cover everything. I'm going to be skimming through a few key points, and I apologize in advance if something I say needs further clarification or more in-depth discussion. And I encourage you to, sorry, I'll just turn that off. I encourage you to reach out to me if you'd like to go into that any further, inshallah. So I want to start by sharing with you a story of an elderly man and his dog. And this was about 10 years ago. I was working in one of our vet clinics, and I met a very kind man by the name of John and his dog Honey. And he was a single man, so he lived by himself. He lived with Honey. And Honey was a beagle. I don't know if any of you know beagles, but they're very good at sniffing and they're very good at eating. Okay, they have great appetites. They love to eat. And so this dog was very dear to John, and she was like his shadow. She would go everywhere with him. And so they shared many meals together. They'd go everywhere together, and she helped him get through a lot of his physical illness challenges as well as mental illness challenges. And she gave him unconditional love, and he would do almost anything for her as well. So one day, John and Honey are going for their regular morning walk. She's on her lead, and she stops during the walk to answer the call of nature, and which is a very normal thing for a dog to do while they're on their walk on a patch of grass on the pavement. And John leaned down to pick up her business, and using the little garbage bags he was carrying, which is also a very normal thing for a pet owner to do, and it's a responsible thing to clean up after your dog. But this wasn't any ordinary patch of grass, okay, as John was about to find out, when a bearded man with a long garment on came rushing out to him, shouting, waving his arms angrily, and he said, "Get your filthy dog away from our mosque. Don't bring that dirty creature here. Don't you know this is our place of worship?" And John left a bit embarrassed and confused. And a few days later, he came to me and he asked me, he said, "Dr. Shibly, I don't really understand. I'm not a Muslim, but I have read your Holy Quran, and I've read some of the teachings in Islam, and I thought your religion teaches you to care for animals. So I don't understand why I was treated this way, or why my dog was treated with so much contempt when all that she did was relieve herself on the council property." And I thought that's a really good question to ask. Why is that? Why was he treated this way? And it made me reflect as well on back when I was in year 12, and I decided to apply to become a vet, applied to uni to study vet science. And many people in the community would say to my parents, "Why are you letting him study vet science? He's going to spend 5 years at university studying that. And then why don't he become an accountant or an engineer or a human doctor Don't you know he's going to have to touch dogs and pigs and snakes? And this was the kind of sentiment. And so, I decided, or I realized that, many of the views that we have as Muslims about animals, and in particular dogs and pigs, come from our cultural or family practices and not necessarily from our Islamic teachings. And so to give you an idea of how deep-rooted some of these cultural beliefs and misconceptions go, I'm going to tell you about an event that happened in Malaysia a few years ago. It was called the Touch a Dog Day. Okay, it was organized to help people overcome their fears around dogs and to allow them to interact with them in a safe and friendly way, which is a great thing, and there's lots of benefits in handling animals, which we'll go into later, inshallah, if we get the time. So he even invited scholars to this event to teach the people about basic hygiene and washing their hands after handling pets, which, by the way, is not a Muslim thing. Everyone needs to learn about hygiene, not sharing utensils with animals, any animals, and washing your hands often. I mean, COVID taught us that good lesson about the importance of washing our hands. And so it was a successful event. They had about 1,000 people attend. They were happy, smiling, Muslims and non-Muslims, women in hijab, people who were getting to touch a pet for the first time in their life maybe. And it was breaking down a lot of the cultural taboos that dogs are bad and they're dirty. But he received over 3,000 complaints, angry messages, physical threats, some death threats even, for having done this event. And so, look, I'm not here today to go into any fiqh rulings about impurities that exist in the world, and some of them which stem from animals' bodily fluids. I'm not here to talk about what we can and can't eat, okay? We don't need to hate on pigs. Like in some Muslim households, you can't even say the word pig, or your children can't watch Peppa Pig. It's like, pig, bad. We don't need to hate on pigs. We just have to not eat them, okay? And again, I'm not going to go into that, but I'm also not here to discuss whether we should or shouldn't have dogs as pets. And if you want to look into that, there's much more qualified people who are able to answer that question. You can Google the talk. There's a great talk by Sheikh Yasir Qadi on YouTube that you can check out on owning dogs, and he goes through the different different views from the different madahib. But what I do want to do as a Muslim vet in Australia is to help create awareness and some understanding about the important role that pets, especially dogs, play in the lives of many Australians, and hopefully bridge the gap in helping us as Muslims to become more empathetic, not only to the animals that live in our community, but also to their owners, okay? Our colleagues, these are our friends, our neighbors, our employers. And you might not own a pet, and you may never wish to do so, and that's okay. But no doubt you will come into contact with someone who does own a pet. And they'll have different values that they place on their pet that you're not going to understand, or that we're not going to understand. And we still need to respect that. So here's a fun fact for you. There are over 29 million pets in Australia. 29 million. Okay, that's more than the humans that we have here. Okay, and there's over 65% of Australians that have at least one pet. 65%. So we're not just talking about crazy cat ladies, right? We're talking about regular people that own pets. Now, for many Muslims who have grown up in other cultures, the role of a cat and a dog is very different. Okay, and now that COVID restrictions have been lifted and you could travel to a developing country, you'll witness this firsthand. You'll see how these animals are treated very differently in different parts of the world. And some of you may be familiar with sights such as, 5 to 10 scrawny, flea-ridden street cats rummaging through the garbage bins trying to pick up scraps that they can eat for dinner. You might have seen emaciated dogs with patchy coats that are scratching themselves raw and, limping on one of their legs and dragging themselves across the road. You might have seen these images, in your past, but I want us to reflect on that now in our current society and think, how often have you seen images like that? How often do we see things like that in Australian suburbia? How differently are these animals here cared for? Okay, they're not only loved and cared for by their owners, but even random strangers, okay? People who will drive past, a wildlife pet, animal that's been injured on the side of the road, or a stray dog that's run away because it's scared of the storm and it's roaming the streets. They'll pick them up, they'll take them in, they'll look after them, they'll drive them to a hospital, they'll have them cared for. This is the kind of culture that we live in. This is the society that we live in. And they're even protected by government legislation. Okay, so I don't know how many of you know, but there's an Animal Care and Protection Act that places a legal duty of care on people in charge of animals, and ensures that the needs of those animals are met in the appropriate way. And so I just wanted to, and we'll talk about that a bit later, but I wanted to just reflect on that a little bit in how Australian law treats animals, livestock, wildlife, pets, and how that is very much more aligned with the Islamic values, much more than a lot of the cultural practices and norms that we're accustomed to. And so, I just want to challenge us to reconsider our thinking and how we approach these things. So let's talk about why. Why are there so many pets? So modern society is busy. We're career-focused. Many couples want to have a good, solid financial base before they start a family. And so sometimes they start with pets. Okay, they start with pets as the first child, and then after another 5 or 10 years, they might, go and have human babies. Now, some couples choose not to have kids, or they physically can't. They've tried, they physically can't have kids despite trying. And so these pets are often a substitute for children. Okay, so these pets fill a massive gap for that family by providing them with an outlet that they can show love, care, compassion, and also to experience the joy and rewards that you get as being a parent, from being a parent. And so, while it might seem strange to people who don't have pets, and even people who do have pets but they don't treat them the same way, like for a lot of people, they have pets, but the pet is just a housemate that kind of lives in the yard and, gets fed once a day, and, whatever's left over, that's what they get. But, that's quite different to these couples who have pets as their children, and it's not uncommon for them to refer to their pets as their first child or their fur babies, or refer to themselves as pet parents, and how we react and how we respond to those sorts of statements or the things that they share with us can actually be viewed as offensive. Sometimes they'll tell us these things and we're kind of like, ooh. We give them a funny look. It's not what we say, it's the look on our face. It's our nonverbal communication that sometimes, it just gets people offside. How they treat their pet, the money that they're willing to spend on their pet, their toys, their beds, their health care. Like, these will seem very odd to a non-pet parent, but it's really important for us to not judge, because we don't know the value of that pet and what it means to them. So just imagine us with our kids. If we were excited about our new little baby and we brought it to show our friends and they were like, don't let it touch me, or oh, your baby drooled on my arm, so this is how they view it, right? And they'd be like, well, okay, big deal, just go wash your hands. Like, what's the big deal, and this is how rifts develop, okay? It's our lack of understanding, our lack of empathy between these pet parents and non-pet parents. And so the next thing I want to talk about is just the benefits of pets. Okay, so there's numerous scientific studies that show the benefits of interacting with pets. People in hospital healing faster when visited by dogs, kids with ADHD that were told to read stories once a week to these dogs. There were two groups, and some kids were told to read stories to the dog, and the other group was told to read stories to a puppet that looked like a dog. Okay? And the group that read the stories to the dog actually had much better results. Okay? This group that read to the dog showed better social skills, and they had fewer behavioral problems. Okay? It's pretty amazing. Interacting or specifically petting of pets resulted in decreased levels of cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and increased levels in oxytocin, which is your feel-good hormone. Okay? And reducing your blood pressure, loneliness, increasing feelings of social support, and improving our mood. So anyone who has pets will attest to this, okay? You'll have experienced this, you'll know this. And, it doesn't even matter what type of pet. There was another study that was done that took 3 groups of older men that were living by themselves, and the one group was given a plant, and the other group to care for and look after for a period of a few months. Another group was given a bird, and the third group was given a TV. And they measured their general health and various factors, their mental health as well as their physical health. And it was no surprise that the worst group out of the three were the ones that had the TV. And then it was followed by the plants. I mean, the plants give us a lot of benefit as well. We nurture them, you water them daily. The people were talking to their plant and seeing them grow and new leaves develop. Like, that's quite a rewarding thing. But the biggest benefit was in the group that had the bird. Okay, and obviously we know about seeing eye dogs. We're familiar with that for many years, dogs that assist the visually impaired, but there's also a lot of other types of dogs which are used to assist humans. So either therapy dogs that can help relieve anxiety and fear, or even early detection of seizure activity, low blood glucose levels, and cancer. Okay, this is pretty amazing. They're using dogs to sniff out cancer in patients and detect things long before even the medical tests can pick these things up. And so part of the reason is that these dogs are very present, okay? Dogs are present, the cats less so. If anyone has a cat, you'll know that cats, they take you or leave you, right? Like, it's on their terms. With the dog, they say dogs have masters and cats have slaves, right? So the dog will come and be loyal to you, and a cat will kind of come to you when they want. But anyway, look, dogs are very present, and they're very in touch with body language. Our body language specifically, even more than we are. Okay, so if you're feeling sad, for example, these dogs will just come sit by you and they'll just be there to love you. Okay, and their attention is focused solely on the person the entire time. Now, there's a lot of talk amongst humans, and we're all trying to learn about mindfulness, okay? Having attention, intention, compassion, and awareness. But animals do this innately. And there's so much that we can learn from them. And so we see that the benefits of pets are widespread. Okay, whether you're looking for a companion to go for walks and keep you active, or you're actually looking for a live-in carer that can save your life, these pets are filling a huge gap in our society. And not to mention the cost and the burden that our social services are benefiting from by having these pets in the homes. Okay, especially the socially isolated, elderly part of our community. And so the next time you see someone with a pet, if you're struggling to find the empathy and how to be nice to them, then just think of all the tax money that you're saving by them having this pet. Okay, if that gives you some form of relief. I'm just going to share a few quick things on pet ownership. Okay, this is really important. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of Muslims in our community that have pets or want to get pets. A quick word of advice, just do your research. Please, 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 please do your research. Okay, too many people are not prepared for a pet. Okay, they go out and it's an impulse buy. They weren't thinking of getting a pet, they just decided, they went to the shop for bread and milk and they came back with a puppy or a kitten. Okay, this is how it happens. Maybe they were adopted. Maybe some random cat wandered in your yard and you started feeding them. And then before you know it, now they're coming every day and you're feeding them and they're kind of your pet, and now you can't find the owners and suddenly it's yours. Okay, or a friend of yours has a litter of puppies or kittens or something, or guinea pigs, and you get one for free. Okay, beware the free pet. Okay, they can cost a lot of money. And COVID, COVID was a perfect thing. We're all staying at home. Everyone's like, oh yeah, let's get a pet. They'll keep the kids busy. They're nagging us all the time. Let's just get them a pet. Here's another statistic for you. RSPCA last year accepted more than 130,000 animals that were surrendered to the RSPCA because of these impulse purchases. Okay, so these are people getting pets, not being prepared to look after them, and then having to surrender them. So, look, people are not prepared. Either the type of the pet, the species of the pet, the age of the pet, not ready to take on a puppy or kitten, the breed and its health needs, and how long that pet's going to live for. Like, some of these pets are going to live a long time. That's a lot of, care that they're going to need. And so you as a pet owner need to know your resources, your time, your money, your energy, your availability. And it can cost over 1,000 years just on basic care. I'm talking about feeding and parasite control and annual vaccinations. I'm not talking about them getting sick. When they get sick, that's another story. That's thousands of dollars. Just to touch briefly on that, the cost of care modern medicine demands higher standards of care, and we've got access to much higher, grade of human equipment, testing, medication, and you can even see a specialist for your pet, heart specialist, eye specialist, skin specialist, even for behavioral issues. And so these services all cost money. And because we don't have to pay for our own medical expenses as humans, most of us are unaware of what the real cost of true good healthcare is. And so we see veterinary services as ridiculously expensive, but they're actually not, just that we don't know what our human stuff costs. And so, in summary, well, on the pet ownership front, I'm also just going to say, please desex your pets if you have a cat. Okay, there's a good pyramid thing you can search online. It shows how cats multiply, and in a few years, cats have 20 kittens a year. So if you don't desex them, within 5 years you can have 1,000 cats. Okay, and so this is something to be careful of. Owning a pet's not something to take lightly, and we've got an Islamic obligation and an Australian legal requirement to care for them. Exercise, shelter, food, love, and medical care. These are the 5 core requirements of a pet. And so in ending, I just wanted to thank you all for listening, and also to remind us all to learn more about Allah's beautiful creation, and to reflect, to contemplate, and to even copy some of their beautiful qualities in how we treat each other. And there's so much that we still don't know about these amazing creatures, and we've got so much to learn. And I often reflect that if Allah chose to create this beautiful creature, then who am I to refuse them of my care or my appreciation? And so we need to extend this care and empathy to those in the community that love and care for their pets, regardless of our personal views. So if anyone has any questions, happy to be contacted, social media or anything. Inshallah, thank you for your time. Jazakallah khair.